Welcome to I Love This Thing So Frigging Much, a podcast about passion. My name is Sophie Katz, and today I am joined by Ashley, a pop culture enthusiast. Welcome to the show, Ashley.
Hello.
Hello.
Happy to be here.
Happy to have you here. So, here is how this works. Ashley will have 3 minutes to talk about something that she loves. This can be a person, place, thing, concept, activity, anything she wants. Our only requirement is that she loves it wholeheartedly and wants to tell us why. Are you ready, Ashley?
I am.
Excellent. Got my timer here. Now, what do you love so frigging much?
Oh, a lot of people have a lot of opinions on Star Wars. But the one opinion that most people tend to share is the best Star Wars game is Knights of the Old Republic. It's an Xbox game that came out in 2003. Of course, I didn't find out about it then. But when we finally got an Xbox, remember, we went to Walmart, we picked up 2 games. We picked up Morrowind, the Elder Scrolls game, and Star Wars, Knights of the Old Republic, because it said Star Wars. We get it home, Mom plays it, doesn't like it. I play it, I absolutely fall in love with it. One of the really cool things about this game is the world building in it, and that's what I've always loved with Star Wars, is not so much the main characters, but places you get to see, the different cultures that they flesh out. And this game is actually made by BioWare, for those that play Mass Effect or Dragon Age. This is actually one of the precursors to the format that they use. The second best thing about this game is the plot. As a 10-year-old, there's not a lot of things that can catch your attention and hold it, especially if you have ADHD like me. But you start off as a scout, a soldier, or a scoundrel on this ship. They tell you, you've been handpicked for this mission, really important. You're kind of like, why? Like, what's so cool about this character? They really don't do anything. You go through the game, you eventually become a Jedi, because it's Star Wars. You have to be a Jedi. You go and you go and you go and you do these missions and you visit places like Tatooine, mentioned in New Hope, the places they, say that the Rebel base is on, which is obviously not. You go to the home of the Wookiees. Bear in mind, this game came out before Revenge of the Sith did. So, you see all these really cool things that you don't really get to see in the movies. Then you get this really fantastic plot line that no other game that I've played has ever really compared to. Go through this game, you hear about all these other characters, and you hear about this villain that you don't really get to see in the game because they tell you that they've died before the events of it. This Darth Revan character. Spoilers if you've never played it. You go through and you find out, into the game, that your character is actually Revan. Only they don't remember because the Jedi wiped their memories. And that was such a big deal for me because you're playing this game and you don't see it.
Go ahead and finish your thought.
You don't see it, but then they show you all the moments in the game that lead up to that moment that say, hey, Jedi do bad things and you're actually Revan.
Oh, wow. Thank you so much for telling me about Knights of the Old Republic.
You're welcome.
Let's actually get right into that last point that you said, that there is a major twist that your character is actually this supposedly dead bad guy. So tell a little more about the moment you played it and how that made you feel.
So you learn, at the beginning of the game, they tell you that Darth Malak, the current Sith Lord, turned on his master. They show you that happening in a scene your character sees. They tell you this throughout the whole game, that Revan was bad, that Revan was evil, that Revan died. And then you find out that you've been that person the whole time. And you not only get that perspective to see it from your character's perspective, but you see it from the perspective of the other characters. I remember I was sitting on the couch. Mom had just finished making dinner, and she was learning that, and I straight up dropped my controller. Like, I didn't see it coming. You don't. Then they show you after all the moments where they laid it out for you.
But does it make it more interesting to replay the game, knowing what you know now?
Oh, yeah, for sure. The game itself is just really good, that there's so many things that you can do that you don't get to do the first time because you're just trying to play through it. Mm-hmm. And then you get to look for those hints that you missed before. So that's definitely something that I've replayed it almost 10 times all the way through. Like, it never gets old.
You mentioned that the game offers the chance to flesh out some of the locations and cultures, and you mentioned Dantooine and the Wookiee planet getting visited. Are there any world-building details that stand out to you as your favorite details?
Yes, so Korriban, it's not a world that they really mention anymore in the current Disney Star Wars lore. In the Legends verse, Korriban is the home world of the Sith. Sith as a species before it became a culture. And you learn more about the different Sith Lords that existed, and one of the missions in the game is going to all of their tombs and stealing their relics. And you meet each one. And that planet always stuck with me, because you not only see it in that game, but you see it in the sequel as well after about 7 years. And it's just always been one of the coolest locations to visit in game.
That does sound cool. You mentioned that you can start out the game as a scout, soldier, or scoundrel. Which of those do you like most to play as?
Always scoundrel. Always the rogue.
What's the difference when you play as the scoundrel?
The scoundrel, your stats are a little bit different as far as sneaking and lockpicking. Soldier is a more aggressive character, and the scout's a little more in between. Also, I just thought the scoundrel's armor looked cooler, so that's, part of it. You always gotta pick what looks cool.
Hey, video games are visual. You gotta go with what looks cool.
Mm-hmm.
Is there anything that you don't like about Knights of the Old Republic? And if so, how do you handle that?
I guess the one thing that I don't like about the series as a whole is how finished it was in the end. There's a lot of plot lines that they don't really wrap up in the first game. Plot lines that they start in the first game that don't get finished in the second one. And to find that ending, you have to go and play the online game, which for me, I didn't enjoy that one. To be fair, there's not a lot in the first game that isn't good, especially for the time that it was made in. The second game, it was rushed. It was rushed bad. You just read through online, read all the mods that they had for it that was never released.
It sounds like you were expecting something a bit more maybe complete than you got in the sequel.
Like, the first game was all good. Like, it was everything they started in the first game, they ended. Then when they started the second game, they carried over some of the plot from the first game. Then they kind of went nowhere with it in the end. You find out you're this exile from the war that Revan was in. Then they tell you Revan's missing. Even have you interact with characters from the first game about Revan, and then at the end of the game, going off to find this character. That's it. Then there's no conclusion to it.
If you could have thrown one thing in that you think would have made the second game maybe not as good as the first game, because I don't know if anything's going to live up to that memory, but that would have made it better, what would it have been?
Oh my gosh. Really don't know. That's a really, really good question. I think maybe condensing some of the plots they had in the first one, or had in the second one, condensing some of the plots and kind of making it more focused. Because the game itself, it explores a lot of different themes, but it just doesn't feel complete. It touches on the idea of the Jedi weren't always good, they make bad decisions, or there's a Sith triumvirate out there, making the shots in the galaxy. Like, there's so many different things they threw in, like having a mentor, that mentor turning out to be a Sith Lord. So many cool thoughts, but takes away from the main storyline.
It sounds like you have a lot of great memories with this game.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Many a night I stayed awake. My mom would find me the next day asleep in the recliner with the game still on and the controller in my hands.
And that's a sign of love, if anything else. Ashley, thank you so much for telling us about something you love today.
Thank you for letting me do it.
Oh, my pleasure. And thank you, our listeners, for tuning in today. If you would like to learn more about Knights of the Old Republic or our guest, Ashley, you can find her social media information in the episode description. And don't forget to use the hashtag LoveThisThingCast to tell us about the things you love. I Love This Thing So Frigging Much is a production of Through the Window Media. This episode was directed by Sophie A. Katz and edited by Melissa Block. You can find us at Through the Window on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, or Tumblr. That is THROU, the window, at all the social media sites. Be good to yourself, be kind to each other, and you'll hear from us again soon.